Let's call the select board meeting for Monday, July 11th, 2016 to order at 7 o'clock. So first order of business, I assume that's Deb McGuire?
Yes.
Come on up. Deb McGuire is the Community Program Director for USDA regarding our financing for the water projects.
Come on up, Deb.
Yes, come on up.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for having me tonight.
Introduce everybody.
My name's John Bouvier, Selectboard member.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Michelle Peroli.
Nice to meet you.
Ted Lilas.
Peter Coffey.
Hi.
Peter Heffernan.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Peter Heffernan.
Okay, nice to meet you all.
I'm Therese Kirby. I've been
Therese.
dealing with Misty and Eric. So.
Okay, great.
So they sent you down to take the brunt of our anger?
I was on leave the last few weeks.
Oh.
I was on leave and working off-site. So I became aware of your concerns late last week. And I thought that since I am manager of the program, it would be most appropriate for me to come and meet with you. Eric and Misty do outstanding work, and they have my full confidence. However, you know, if people are not satisfied, I think it's up to the manager to come and answer your concerns. So that's why I'm here tonight.
That's great. I think that Misty was probably pretty open and shared the concern was obviously
Yes.
that Peter and I had met with Jim and were told that we would most likely qualify for the 45% of the grant because we were in the median income and we had all the right figures. Obviously encouraged us to move forward with the program and the application, which is a bit daunting, and did some other work. They had sent another application along too saying that if you filled this out you could qualify for maybe some other pot of money. I don't know, so we filled that out too. But anyways, so when we got the email, we were a little bit shocked. I did speak with Misty, and I think it would be good to kind of explain the underwriting process a little bit better because for us, I mean, it was complimentary, the fact that she was saying we didn't need a subsidy and this and that, but it definitely was not what we were expecting.
Okay. What I'd like to say first is that receiving a grant isn't always the best news. The grants are reserved for the neediest of communities. And if Jim did not make that clear to you, then I apologize. However, the way our program is set up is that we have income and population criteria. And if you fall within those bands, and you fell within the up to 45% band, that's the first hurdle you go over in order to then be considered for the more specific underwriting, which, because of the nature of a water and a stormwater system, is very complex. Because the system itself is complex. And you're taking into consideration the income, the population, the type of system, and also what are similar systems in the region paying for this kind of service. The money that we are able to offer to the various municipalities and fire districts is allocated to us from the national office. And the national office they call this a loan program. It is primarily a loan program. And so when we receive our state allocation, we receive less than 30% of the money that we get is grant money. And so just by that alone, there's no way we could possibly give each town that qualified for 45%, or even we have some poverty towns who would qualify for 65% or 75%, excuse me. Even those towns, we're not able anymore to give up to the 75%. And that's very disappointing for me as a program director because, we all in the staff all want to give as much grant as possible. However, the way that the funding has been in recent memory, I can't remember a time when we could give every applicant who came to us in a given year the full amount of grant that they qualified for in that initial band. So what we do is we find, okay, which band does this town fit into? And then we start doing more research about what are your user rates, what will the new system cost you, and then we're taking that information and we're looking at what do other towns and municipalities and fire districts charge their customers for what we call similar systems. And then we're taking all of that into consideration. First thing we have to do is be able to pay the debt. Whatever you're borrowing, we have to be able to pay. So in your case, the $1,081,000 or so in debt. We look to see first, can the town afford, can the tax base afford this debt? And when you look at what the similar systems costs are versus what your costs will be, the numbers show us that you can afford to pay that debt. Now, I read or heard that perhaps that was penalizing you because you had run your system well in the past. One really doesn't have to do with the other. I mean, I guess you could say, oh, well, if their system was in complete failure and they had to pay 3 times the amount for a new system, then maybe that would come into play. But I wouldn't say the majority of the systems that we come across are in complete failure. It just so happens that your system improvements, which you haven't had anything significant in the last 20 years, is costing what I know is a large price tag for all of us, $1 million, but we are seeing other projects that are costing 3, 4, upwards to $10 million. So comparatively speaking, it is a smaller size, lower cost project. And I can assure you that we did look to see, was there any way that we could offer grant? And we do have oversight from our national office, and they do look at our projects and make sure that we're in line and underwriting them consistently and fairly. So I can say with confidence that we did do that in this case.
I think the most disheartening thing for me is when we met with him, he told us that, you know, this money is there and we don't have the applicants for it, and you need to get on the ball and get your application in because we're going to lose the money. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so we were never told from the start that we were told we fit the bracket, we were told we stood a good chance. And then we get to the point where we've got numbers and all of a sudden we have to pass a positive bond vote. And we sold that positive bond vote to the voters with the understanding that, you know, there was a certain amount of forgiveness coming with this project. So I, for one, was extremely upset when we get a letter saying that you know, we were okayed for a loan, mm-hmm. But we didn't get any forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And I just, you know, it's a tough pill for me to swallow when I told a number of people that, you know, I understand that the loan is cheap money. We're never gonna borrow money at that rate. Right. But we sold it with the cheap loan and the forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And then turn around and jump through the hoops, pass the bond vote, and now all of a sudden we're, I said, penalized for doing a good job. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's what it feels like.
And if I may say a little more onto that was, and there's also 2 former select board members sitting in the back of the room here, that this board, former boards, have, as you said, we've run a fairly cost-effective system. Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, we could have done some more repairs. We've got other leaks in other parts of town and done other things, but we know that we had some other, when we take the whole scheme of Bristol intact, you know, this building here, 10 years ago, we put 800, 900,000 into mm-hmm. it. We just signed papers last Tuesday on a $3.19 million fire station. Mm-hmm. So we knew we had needs. So it was like, we'd love to do some more water and borrow some more money, but we don't want to get the entire, when they pay that tax bill and pay their water bill, it's all coming out of the same pocket. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want to scrap them completely. if we'd probably had a new fire station, a new building here, and we didn't have these big expenses, we probably would have, you'd have seen our debt load in our water department been higher just because we've been doing Pine Street and other streets, replacing our old 1907 and 1920 pipes.
Mhm.
West Street is the most leaky one, but it's not the only one.
Mhm.
And I just think that we knew other expenses, and we just said, we gotta do the bigger things. We had a fire station we couldn't even work out of anymore. We had, this building was right on, we had to do those things. And we just said, the water's cheap, we'll just pump it and let it go into the gravel, so to speak. And now we've decided we just can't keep doing that. Electrical costs the way they are. So it wasn't like we kept things low in the water department because we run a good system. It's just, we have other expenses in town.
Right.
I don't understand why the legwork wasn't done before the bond vote. You know, why,
Well, part of it is that we have to receive information from the engineer in order to understand the system. And we have to be able to, we have to know that the borrowers, the taxpayers are going to support the project. And that is part of, the bond vote is part of that process. We ask the towns to bond for the full amount of the project so that we can make sure that it is affordable, that it would go forward if the town so chooses. We can't lend to you unless there is an approved bond.
yes,
So,
but that still doesn't address why the legwork wasn't done before the bond. I would
Simply
never
timing.
borrow money that way. And I don't think anyone in their right mind would sign a purchase and sales agreement for a house without knowing how much the bank is going to loan them and how much, and what the percent is
Yeah.
going to be to borrow the money.
well, what
You know?
our usual course of business is, and if Jim did not present it this way, I can only say that's not going to happen anymore because Jim is no longer with us, is that we tell the applicant, this is the interest rate that is currently being offered. You should plan as if you are going to get a loan only at this interest rate, because you need to tell your borrowers, your taxpayers, that should you not be approved for a grant, this is the interest rate and the terms that will be applicable in your situation. If he did not say that to you, I would say that is not acceptable, and I will reiterate it with our staff. I don't think that practice is going on since I've been the manager of the program.
We didn't get any of that information, did we?
What can we do to avoid this situation in the future if we work with the USDA? I mean, nobody is looking real clever here.
Well,
know?
I think, you do always have the option to go to the state and accept their loan. I believe it's 3% for 20 years. I think you are looking very clever. You have a loan, 2.25% for your water for 30 years and 2.25% for your stormwater for 40 years. That is really a terrific.
I look at us dodging a bullet,
And what bullet is that?
huh?
And what bullet is that?
A much higher rate.
Well, no,
I feel
we're
grateful that the USDA is giving us this
Yeah.
low, particularly after the grant failed.
The grant did not fail. It just was not, your system did not show the need necessary to allocate very limited grant dollars to your system.
I guess,
But why wasn't that determined before we even went to that?
why did
Because
they
it's
ask
too
for?
complicated. There's not enough information at the stage that you're asking for it.
In
we're
that
not-
case, we should be taking our time doing it.
I cannot disagree with that. Most projects develop over 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, so it was
So-
definitely a,
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah.
So just to offer a couple of things, I'm Alan with Green Mountain Engineering.
Yes,
So one thing, in defense of USDA, they don't know who's coming in the door with applications, and it is a competitive process. So timing is everything, and you may just be in a competitive time of the year to ask for money. The other thing I think is a positive is because we've switched from the state funding program to USDA, the state will forgive some of the planning money, up to 50,000. And your entire planning, preliminary engineering and final design is 44,000. So there is a little bit of a silver lining if you go with USDA funding, is that some of the planning money will be forgiven. I can't say all of it will, but I think a good portion of it may. Because the state sort of rewards you for going somewhere else to borrow money.
And there's
in
a
their
huge,
program.
yeah, I mean, the application that Jamie, I mean, it's so much information. And you're right, Ted, it did feel backwards to us, but it's, you know, it's certainly not, the USDA regulations probably coming out of the federal, and this is the way they're looking at it. And, but certainly it was hard to sell a bond vote to people and not be able to, you know, in that respect, I totally get it, because
Yeah,
we're the ones
I-
writing this
Well,
stuff.
we,
I do understand the challenges. and
Yeah,
we're not,
absolutely.
not minimizing them.
I would much rather have been honest with the taxpayers and said, we don't qualify for a grant, so it's going to be a loan. And here we go, let's go to vote.
Well, now we know the
we were
future.
not, we were not told that to plan on borrowing. We were led to
Right.
believe that we
Would get the funds.
would get some sort of forgiveness. And, you know, I wouldn't have had a problem selling the project. The thing that upsets me the most is that I touted this with the forgiveness. I said, you know, they've been telling us all along that we qualified and that it should be a no-brainer. They had money that wasn't being asked for and they were gonna lose it. And that's the
I'm
way it
sorry
was,
if that
that's the way it was
presented,
sold to
because that
us.
has not been our situation for at least 9 years since I've been in the department, where we have just had grant money to give away without consideration of all these different factors. It's not, it has not gone wanting. It really, I don't know why that impression was left. But
I mean,
that's,
we know the project's a good project, we know that it's needed, we know that the money is a good deal, we're not doubting any of that, we've got a little egg on our face right now, and we're a tad bit upset. Or at least I am. I am also.
Perhaps one of the things that can help mitigate that is the fact that when you first started talking with Jim, the interest rate was higher. And what I've, in looking at the information, the interest rate has declined by 0.625%. And over 30 or 40 years, that's a significant amount of money. So,
I guess my question is, and I work for a bank, so I know people come in and they have to pre-qualify to go look, and they'll say, okay, you're qualified for a $200,000 home, not $1.5 million. Why weren't we, you know, send in our budget for our water department and our tax rate and all that, and said, you can apply, but it doesn't, you got too, as you said, we're running too efficient a system. Why
no,
don't
I did not say you're
Or-
running too efficient.
or
Otherwise, you wouldn't have the need for us. I think after you make these improvements, you will have a gold standard system that will help you with your townspeople. You'll be able to fill in and pick up more users along the path of the system. And that's only going to benefit you from an economic standpoint. And you can also be very proud that you're one of the first towns of your size to be addressing stormwater. And I think that's very appropriate. And you can, you know, you may not feel like this has gone smoothly. I think, though, to focus on the outcomes at the end of the day, that you are going to be enhancing the economic future of your town, plus being good environmental stewards. That's all very important and all part of the bigger picture. And it is something we consider even when we're making a loan. Because this year we will most likely have to go to national office and request loan money. And so it's not a given that a town gets a loan. All these factors are considered.
Could you talk a little bit about something that Misty had mentioned was the letter of conditions?
Yes.
And I believe that she said it's like a 30-page document. I was like, so does it just, what is it outlining? I think the select board has 45 days. Is that true to accept?
Sure, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand it.
It's basically, when you were at a bank, you had letters of condition or letters of commitment. It outlines the terms of the loan and what your responsibilities are when securing the loan with regard to the bond, and then what your responsibilities are in maintaining the system, both financially and from a management standpoint, a physical management standpoint. So it's going into that, it's going into insurances that may be required, like workman's comp and things
Yep.
like that. So it's a lot of detail, but I don't think it would be anything that you wouldn't be used to handling as a municipality.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not
that
gonna be
makes sense.
anything-
I was just curious what it was. She
Yes.
just said that would be coming, and I thought she'd said 45 days. The select board would have 45 days
Sure.
to accept because I think that had been one of the original questions was how long do they have before they accept or not the loan package offered? So 45 days from the date of the letter?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And you know, we are coming up on our, what we call our pooling in early August, where they theoretically can take money from my account and put it back into the national office, so that if we haven't loaned all of our money, they can loan it out to somebody else in
Okay.
Okie or
Wherever.
wherever.
Yeah.
That was explained to us.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what I want to do is just make sure that even if you technically have 45 days, I'm going to tell national office that you want the money.
Yeah.
So that they don't take it from my account.
Right, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, we can.
And then I would ask that as soon
Right.
as possible thereafter, if you don't want it, that I could release it for some other town.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm really grateful for the low interest loan, but are there other stumbling blocks down the road that we should be aware of?
Such a, I
That is the problem. I don't know what they are.
don't.
Can you,
We've
in your
worked
experience,
with
have you
Green
seen?
Mountain Engineering before. I don't think that, I mean, we have worked in these types of projects for many, many years. I don't see any issues. I think that this was an issue of miscommunication. And for that, I feel sorry that happened. However, I still, at the end of the day, am very proud of the package that we're offering you. And I really feel like it is a good thing for the community, for all the reasons I've stated.
So Deb, can I ask something? It's something you
Sure.
said, and tell me if I misheard you wrong. You said, you receive less than 30% of the funds, so that you can never give, like when they said you are qualified up to 45%. So if you're never going to give 45%, why would you tell somebody you're qualified for up to 45%?
Well, the regulation is written in that way, and there may be a time where we make a decision because, let's say you have a larger project and it's going to put a burden on the taxpayers such that it's going to raise their individual rates higher than similar system rates for systems that are, pretty much the same as the one you're working on. If that were to happen, then it's possible that that system could get the 45%, but another system who's technically in that band might only get, say, 15. That's happened this year. And it has to do with timing. When does your application come in? When is final? And is there any grant money left? So it is a very, very competitive process. And if there was a case to be made where I could show that you were paying more than similar systems, I would ask National Office for grant money. I can't make that case. And if I go to National Office and ask for that grant money, they look at our numbers and they say, Deb, this system has a lower user rate than these other similar systems. How can you justify giving them a grant where this system over here is going to be paying more than similar systems? So it really comes all down to numbers.
Is that information we can get? Like Misty could, I'm just curious
Yeah.
what similar systems are paying, and that could be very useful for us, especially for long range planning.
Sure.
So I can ask Misty for that,
Yeah.
that's something she can give me.
Mhm.
All right, I wasn't sure, I do think that could be helpful, certainly in my mind for.
Yeah, and you can also, have you worked at all with RCAP or rural water? Either?
We have a little bit, yeah,
Okay.
but not much.
Okay, Is RCAP can also help with regard to helping you with a business plan, so to speak,
Yeah.
for how to manage the system going forward.
Yeah, and we did just get a grant from the state for asset management and that sort of
Okay.
thing. So we
Yeah,
did
so
just
that's
wrote
what you're
that.
working
Yeah,
on.
so
That's
we're,
great.
yes, yeah, we're gonna be working on that. So, but that's a job, I'll get that for Misty, because I
Yeah.
do think that could be helpful information.
Yeah. Go ahead. Barry.
Yes.
Hi.
A few questions. Is this application process an ongoing, rolling thing, or is there a beginning to when you accept applications and an end for certain pools of money?
There is a deadline for when we will cut off, and we'll have a pool around the group that applied. So the deadline, I believe that Bristol made was January 29th. And then we had a second deadline, which I believe was April 15th. I have a number of programs I manage, so I apologize if it was in April.
So there is a defined time for a
Yes.
set
Yeah.
number of dollars.
So what we do is the January 29th deadline is taking all those projects where the application is complete by January 29th, fully complete. And in March, we have a meeting where we sit down, we review the applications, and we look at the grants that, grant money we have left.
Okay.
And so that takes care of all of the grant money that's left for the year. Then move forward in April, and anything that, anybody that comes in between January 30th and April 15th, we process. And if we can send them down to national office, if they qualify for a grant, we would send them down to national office for the grant money. But as I said here, we're in a situation here where Bristol doesn't qualify for the grant money in the sense of they don't show the need as compared to other systems.
So, yeah, I was getting around to another point. So, regardless of whether there was money available, assuming there was money available because you had few applicants and you had more money available, would Bristol have not qualified because of the financials?
Right, you would not have qualified.
They never would have qualified given the data that they sent you and you received for a
Because of-
grant,
Because of the similar systems, right.
regardless of whether there was money available or not.
Only if for some miracle that, and say we were back in the ARA years where there was an overflow of grant money, the Recovery Act years, where there was just so much money we couldn't spread it out enough. Maybe in that situation, I could have justified it somehow.
Okay, so sounds like there was two criteria. In order to be eligible, the community had to meet certain demographic standards,
Right, eligibility.
income-wise and everything
Yeah.
else, even to be considered, and we
Right.
met that.
Right,
The second standard was the cost of the system, I
Right.
guess, and what one felt
The
might be
user rate, yeah.
what I'm paying for my watering,
right,
et cetera, et cetera.
right.
Not complex data, I would presume. Something that the town administrator or the head of the water department would have in terms of what the costs are.
Well,
for,
I
the
mean, I
organization.
worked with Jamie, the Green Mountain Engineering did a lot of work.
Yeah, it's pretty complex.
It's this thick.
So it's not a simple formula,
No.
it costs so much per gallon
No,
for Fred
no.
Baser
No.
to get
I wish
the
it
water.
were.
No, it's not.
If it were, we would be able to make so many more loans in a year.
So, and then lastly, how many applicants did you get? And how many applicants were declined for the grant? About, pretty close.
I'm not prepared with that information. I'd be happy to get back to the town, but I would say that
How many were declined?
I manage 2 states, so it's hard to know right off the top of my head. That's the kind of information I really would want to get back to you on because it's not, just trying to think of the spreadsheet.
Can you guess at the percent that were declined?
No, because we still are going through the process of this year, we're still approving loans. So it's not like we've finished our work for the year. But I would say that at least 1 out of 5 was declined, but I think that I'm probably, it's low, that's probably low, 20% is probably low.
It's not 50% or 75, it's in the 20-25% range, something like that.
I don't know, I really have to get back to you. It's at least that, could be higher.
So when you said the town sending, the speaker said we met the income, medium income and all that rates. So if we run a system that's fairly well managed and fairly cheap water rates, but we had a huge tax rates and it said, boy, it's expensive to live in Bristol, but they have real cheap water. That has nothing to do with it.
No, it does not.
It doesn't, so where,
No,
why does
we're
income,
looking-
I guess, why does income play such a factor when they don't look at the entire, I call the entire
You'd have to
pocketbook?
ask the person who wrote the regulation. I'm
Who,
a-
yeah,
I'm
it's the
sorry,
entire
that-
package that's paid for and a homeowner's expenses for the year,
I would-
between your water and sewer and your taxes.
Yeah. I
Guess.
I don't have a disagreement with you. I think it's a very reasonable way to look at it. I know though how the way we underwrite it is based just on the fund, the management of the water and the stormwater system. We don't look at the tax base and say, oh well, they have a very high tax burden. The property tax burden is high. We don't look at it that way. It's interesting.
So I'm at a bit of disadvantage because I wasn't on the board when all of this was being set up, but it smells like a bait and switch to me. I mean,
Yeah.
this information was readily available to your office, how much it costs to have water in the town of Bristol. And this individual, who you say doesn't work there anymore, comes in and says you could get up to 45%. Knowing what the numbers were, that's just poor business.
Well, we have regulations we need to adhere to. I believe we
I
adhere to them
understand
here.
that, I understand
And
that, but for somebody
I have
to
said
say
to
these
you-
things, knowing how much the water system costs, is improper.
I feel like we've gone over the ground
No,
about
I
how
understand.
Jim and
And
I
I've been-
feel very proud of the package that we are offering. I don't think that the taxpayers or the users are being impacted adversely in any way at all. And you still have choices. You don't have to take the USDA loan. So bait and switch would indicate that you're required or that somehow we're pressuring you to do this. We are in no way pressuring you to do this. I have other applications that have come in since that can use the loan money. So to me, we're making a good faith offer to you at a very good interest rate for very good terms. And you're free to take it or leave it. It's not something that we're pressuring you into. Bait and switch infers pressure. We're not pressuring.
I'm not inferring pressure, I am inferring that the information was there for this individual to look at and say, and then they could compare. I think somebody who does this on a daily basis knows pretty much what the rates of similar sized systems are.
No, it's not that easy. It is not that easy. Systems are not, you just don't look at a system and say, well, that system looks like that system. You can ask your engineer, the systems are complex and it does require analysis, and it is only done after a full application is made. We are a very small department. There are only 2 people who underwrite these loans in the whole state of Vermont. We cannot do that type of analysis up front. And we just don't have the manpower to do that. Because we're also out there, we're making loans for fire stations, town halls, hospitals, schools. This is one area that we make loans in. So we're very, very occupied and want to get as much of the money out there as we can. So we're not able to make that kind of analysis at a very preliminary stage.
Anybody else? Okay, I guess we got what we need.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I do look forward to working with you. I think it is an exciting project. And if, Teresa, if you have any questions, if you want to include me in any further conversations with Misty, feel free. She'll have my phone number.
Okay.
We are really happy to be able to make this loan, and we hope you'll accept it, but we don't want to pressure you either.
Right.
So it's completely up to you what you want to do.
Yeah, she said that, I think I'll talk to her tomorrow, and she was saying about, talking about when she would get the letter of conditions out. and stuff.
Sure.
So it's great, thank you.
I talked to her today. I believe she'll have that to you by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Just needs to go through a process where Eric and or I look at it, make
Yep.
sure that it's, it's exactly as it should be.
Right, exactly.
If we go and do the whole enchilada, and then we continue to have our administrator maybe apply for some money for the stormwater, through
Yeah,
the state new stormwater rules,
yeah.
and we got some loan from that, that wouldn't affect this loan. We could pay down that.
Oh, no, yeah, this loan is not impacted by any other loan that you
So if we got something later on to do this,
Are you asking if we can prepay without any penalty? Is that what you're
Yeah, I
asking?
guess.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can prepay. You
Yeah.
can prepay, which is one of the advantages of our loan. If you went through the bond bank, you would not be able to prepay.
Right.
And that can be a great advantage to some municipalities in your ability to
You
manage
got
money.
some money coming that I don't know about?
no, but I mean, no. But, there may be some act, whatever that Lake Champlain clean money,
Yeah.
and they passed that for.
Yeah.
Also, because I didn't feel like I adequately answered the question about number of loans and grants and denied. I'd like to get back to you
Well,
with that
that'd be great.
information.
That'd be
okay?
terrific, yeah.
Because I really, it's difficult with me managing several programs.
Yeah, in two
across-
states, yeah.
Across 2 states to
Absolutely.
pull those numbers out of my
No,
mind.
that'd be terrific.
Yeah,
That actually could be
sure.
very helpful to
Okay.
us if you could do that. That'd be great.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Excellent.
And will you pass that along?
Yeah,
to-
absolutely. Yeah, I'll give it to Fred, yeah.
Okay, good, because I want to make sure that I do answer the questions, and if you have any follow-ups, that you do get back to me. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Dave's
Appreciate your
No,
time.
I think it
There's
is.
a lovely drive over tonight, too, it's pretty. Okay, thank you all, bye-bye.
I'm just gonna walk out, or you guys can handle it.
Okay, next order of business. Gary Kessler for the Green Mountain Stage Race. Come on up, Gary.
You messing up our chair back there? I did. It was so hot in the sun. I noticed you guys have the blinds closed up here, but back there, you're kind of cooking me.
hot seat.
It's nice and cool here. So I'm Gary Kessler,
guys.
and
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Thanks, Jim, thanks.
Organized the Green Mountain Stage Race. This is the 17th year of the race. Many of those years we've come through Bristol. I'm hoping to get permission to do so again this year. This is on the road race stage September 4th this year, Sunday, September 4th. I work with the chief of police and the police department to make sure we have enough coverage at the intersection and pay for that. And also I work with some of the teams at the high school to help control pedestrians crossing the street, and they also help man one of the feed zones up on Route 17 up on the Gap, and do a good job. And I contribute to some of their causes. They built some new trails at the school. That was one of the things. Made sure we fed them during that day, and then one of the evenings they had a little gathering. So it's been, I think, a good relationship, and like working with the kids, and they get to see people doing maybe a little different sport. So it would be that just I think everybody would be through in the morning, basically over about a 2-hour period.
So what's the route?
The route is going to be pretty much the same, I think, with all the paving that's being done. Coming over the Appalachian Gap tonight was kind of distressing. They've dug up more and more of it, but I mean, it's distressing when you see a state highway with a gap in the middle of the road. It's about this big, and the grass is growing up through it, but they are going to be doing some paving there. And they're doing culvert work now. It starts at Mount Ellen. It'll go down Route 17 to 100, down to the Middlebury Gap, which will have its first lift of pavement on by then. They tell me. Sure they are. Sure they will. And then down, and then 116 up onto the Notch Road, Lower Notch Road, and then up into town. The one year that we didn't do it that way, people came through town a little faster. So this way, it ensures they come through pretty slowly, because the hill out front here is
And
pretty
you have to take
steep.
the corner.
They take the corner, and then it's just back and finish at the top of the
Up to
Appalachian
one-
Gap for most of the fields. Some of the fields will go up the lower sections of the gap and then go down the main road there, go down towards Heinsberg, and then come around again and come back up the second time. Those are the lucky few that get to do that.
Gary, I know you changed it there to go up Lower Notch because the one-lane bridge, there's a traffic light. So now with the two-lane, you're not going to come up that and come up 116 to Hewitt Road?
We could do that. I guess I thought back and forth on one of the things that we have. And I don't know if the Notch Road is a problem. I think it adds a little bit of Vermont character to the race that we've got some dirt road in the race. So for people who like that opportunity, it's there. I haven't heard that it's been a problem. We also have a King and Queen of the Mountains right up before the turn. And certainly, in some ways, might be easier just to go to Hewitt Road and then cut over. That was always the reason we didn't do it because of the one-lane bridge and the traffic would back up and then we wouldn't have been able to make the turn. So if you'll approve it both ways, I'll go look at it both ways and see which makes the most sense. Whatever
I think
works.
the Notch Road gives them more of a challenge.
Yeah, it definitely
I'm just
does.
thinking of the
That's a
bicyclist on it.
serious climb.
Yeah.
And I think for many people it's a surprise because they know that they know there's going to be the gap climbs, but they don't know there's going to be a climb like that. So there it is.
You got that one, then you've got a couple of miles, then you got South Street again.
How many participants do you expect?
We expect probably around 600 or so.
Is that right?
Yeah, but the way we started is there's state police lead every field, so there'll be 11 fields for that day. We have fields based on age and fields based on ability. We have fields for men and women. We have fields for juniors. We have an open kind of grand fondo in case you know anybody in town who'd like to ride, doesn't want to do a little stage race. We have people that just come in and just do that one stage. So that's the 11. Each field is led by a state trooper. There's a whole caravan that goes, with the fields. There's officials, so there's, they have to follow the rules. We make sure they ride on their side of the yellow line. So there are motorcycle officials in cars. There's follow service vehicles that have wheels and bicycles. So if somebody breaks something, they can get something swapped out, get a new wheel. And that's true for every group. Trying to think what else I can tell you. They started about 10-minute intervals. There's a little bit of a break in there at one point just to leave enough time so that we can have those guys do the other loop and not overlap other fields. We try not to have them overlap anyway.
You haven't had any issues on the Lower Notch Road?
We have not. Occasionally had some flat tires, but no, we haven't had any issues. I think one year the road was really bad. This goes back quite a few years, and I hired someone to come out there with their Bobcat sweeper and sweep the sharp rocks that were down that particular year off. Yeah, that was one time. I haven't done it again. I don't think it's been necessary, but that one year it sort of made sense to do it. I guess if it's not graded with sharp rocks for the race, that would be appreciated. But other than that, no, it hasn't been a problem.
How does 600 compare with years in the past?
I'd say it's a staying steady. I mean, it's a 4-day race, so it's a big commitment for people. We have people come. This is a pretty well-known race. Again, it's the 17th year. I saw a guy register the other day from Alaska. We have a lot of people from out west. We have people that come from Europe. So it's a pretty well-known race. It's certainly one of the bigger stage races in the country. But for whatever reason, it's hard for me to know. There's a lot more things for people to do bike-wise and anywhere in their lives, and it's a pretty big commitment. So there was a time where we used to have 900 racers going back 7, 8, 9 years. So it's been sort of steady at about 600 now. We may have a few more. I was happy the other day that we had last year, about 18 days before registration closed, we had about 250 or so riders, and we've got about 250 now, and it's about 55 or 6 days out. So I think that's a good sign. Or it may have been that I was very persuasive in getting people to sign up. I'm not sure which, but I offered a good, I let people know in a good way that they would save money if they register early. So that's a little, but yeah, there's the pitch in the event. We have insurance as well as all the police coverage. So not only police here, but there'll be police at the bottom of the Notch Road. There'll be a policeman. There's police at the bottom of the road up to
17.
Lincoln. There's police at 17. We have lots of police. I have my own, probably the biggest police force in the state that day working for the stage race. A lot of state troopers and a lot of sheriffs and other departments.
And Gary always sends us a proof of his insurance. We
Yes, I
always
will.
have on file.
Yeah, I'll send that over as well. So I do have this form, which is that I need to submit to the state police because we get a permit from them saying we're going to ride more than 2 abreast on the road. So I have to submit a permit application, and then I'd like to show them that I've gone to the select boards and asked for permission. One other thing I will say for this year that I think will be maybe good for Bristol business, I'm pretty sure it will be, is the Saturday stage, because of the state of the roads where we normally run it, we won't be having it. We're going to move it over to the Addison County Fairgrounds, I think is the expectation, and I've already got permission from the select boards over there, so it would be in Weybridge and New Haven and Waltham. run in the loop over there that we have. So that'll bring a lot of people through town either before they race in the morning to get coffee and food, and after they race, and then we have an afternoon wave as well. So there'll be people coming back looking to eat as well. So I think that will probably be a little bit of a benefit as far as, all these people and their supporters. So it's 600 racers, but they come with about 600 other people as well. So it'll be 1,200 people coming to race, watch, and then come back through town. I think that will be, hopefully won't cause a traffic problem.
Yeah.
But they spread out pretty, they finish at different times, and we'll come back through. So I'm happy to make sure they know that there's lots of good places here to eat. In fact, I'm going to eat something here tonight. I'm doing my part too.
That's right.
Okay.
We have people watching the cars backing out on Main Street. I know we did that once before.
We'll do that again, especially
Okay.
since the parking's changed, and that's the students that from the high school that we get out.
I thought it was, but you
volunteers.
didn't specifically touch on it. So.
Yeah, so I work with the boys and girls cross country team and the coaches there. They help marshal in town, so we get them out there and begin with parents and all. So it works pretty well.
So Gary, my only comment is I'm a runner, so I run after the Green Mountain Stage race goes through, and I do find a lot of water bottles, and I know it's kind of hard to control what they do with them, but do they have, like, when you get to water stops, food stops, do they have place, do they usually ditch them there?
They can. I'd be surprised. Where are you seeing them on the Gap, or where?
I see them on 17, and I see them on 116 north towards Heinsberg Way. I mean, at 600 runners, I'm not saying I see a lot of them, but I do see them after the race.
Well, the officials are supposed to be looking for that too. It's against the rules to litter. I can tell you at the race that I organized in the spring that we kick people out who littered. So we're certainly not opposed to doing that. I mean, the officials have to make the call, but we do tell the riders they're not allowed to litter. If they want to get rid of a bottle or food wrapper, they're supposed to do it in the feed zones. I should say these feed zones don't include stopping. They just ride through.
Right.
And somebody hands them something while they're riding.
Right.
And then, but they're free to get rid of, if they're taking on a new bottle,
Right.
get rid of another
Yeah.
bottle, and they have 2 cages. So they'll throw a bottle out in there, and then they get picked up. I'm sure the girls cross country team that worked at the feed zone up on the notch, or up on the Route 17 on the Gap, would tell you how many bottles they picked up, because we went back and got them, and there were trash bags full of,
Right.
of bottles that they had collected. So most people get rid of them there, but I'm surprised that people just get rid of them anywhere else. Just because usually, the bottles cost something,
Right.
they might want to use them again. It's amazing people get rid of them in the feed zones, and then they'll ask me later if they can get their bottle.
Bottle back.
And I'm like, well, let's see, there's like 300 bottles in here. I mean, what does it look like? At this
You got
point?
your name on it?
Yeah, well, sometimes they do. I'm like, you're free to come look through them. I'll bring them, and you can look through them if you want. But anyway.
Can I see the form?
Sure.
So we can.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. It just says you allow us to use the road.
Yeah, the
so-
statement of consent to use public roads. Town of Bristol consents to allow Green Mountain Stage Race to hold Stage 3 of the Green Mountain Stage Race on September 4th, 2016, and doing so to use the public roads in the town that are part of the course. This consent is given with the understanding that Green Mountain Stage Race will provide police coverage, emergency medical services, and volunteer marshaling as necessary. In addition, the town has been named on a third-party insurance policy provided by the United States Cycling Federation.
We need
Pretty
a
standard.
motion.
I would say you need a motion to have you sign it, yes.
Somebody want to
I
make that?
move we allow the stage. Green Mountain
Second.
Stage race.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much. And do you want me to scan a copy and send it back to you?
That would be great, thanks.
Sure.
I'll try to keep it in a folder for events.
That'd
so.
be great. And then I've got my application for the insurance, and you guys also just waiting to get the binder sent.
There you go.
So, so if there are any questions, before the race or after the race, I'm happy to chat, and I hope it will go smoothly again this year. And again, I hope that little extra stage that we're going to be over by the fairgrounds will get people through town. I don't know if anyone will notice, but maybe they will.
Yeah.
That's one they usually do over in the valley.
We do over
Yeah.
in the valley,
Yeah.
right? And so I haven't told many people about it yet. You guys are, other than the select boards over there, you guys are the first ones to hear. But I think it'll be a nice stage. I mean, the roads over there are nice, and as opposed to our roads, I took some people over, and they're like, "Where are the frost heaves? Where are the cracks?" I was like, "I guess they don't get them over here. I don't know. I mean, our roads are just, there's a bridge that's a one-lane bridge not coming out of Moortown Village.
Yes.
So that's unfortunate, and we could. And then there's another bridge that's now off alignment on a downhill that just made it totally unusable. So I'm glad to do something different, and it's fun for the racers too. to race.
And maybe they'll all say to you, let's keep that route.
I suspect that may be the case.
Just a question, Gary, on your application, do you have a question on there that says maybe it would be good for advertising another year to say, did you stop and eat in one of the local towns, or?
I don't, I mean, you mean on where would I put it?
Like,
sort of
Do you do a
advertise
post survey?
I have done surveys, I haven't done them in a few years, but I have done them before. But I'll try to encourage people. I mean, it's, usually it doesn't take a lot of encouragement because they'll be hungry after they race, however, 40, 50 or 70 miles over there. And, this will be the first time they're going to come to a place to eat. So I expect that they'll be looking to grab something. So hopefully it'll be good. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Public forum, opportunity for citizens who are not on the agenda to briefly share comments, concerns with the board. Got anything, Jim?
Sure. In light of the recent police killings and shootings throughout the country, just want to remind people that you don't know what a police officer's life is like. For you to have any interaction with the officers means you did something to bring attention to yourself. So don't blame the officer because you got stopped, because you got a ticket, whatever it is. Support our law enforcement. They need the support. 25 years of their life is 100 of yours. Just remember that. Don't be condemning the police. Stop knocking them and start supporting them. And pray for those that are.
Thank you, Jim. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, discussion regarding the Bristol Fire Department history as it relates to fire districts.
So I sent you all information about that, hopefully clarified any of the issues, and what it was that basically, the policy to appoint the fire chief is correct. What was incorrect was the statute that I provided the fire chief to put in the policy. I should not have led him to Title 20. I should have led him to Title 24. Obviously, from Title 24, you go to Title 20, but still, that was it. I had gone back and sent you a memo outlining the history, and then it was interesting. Reg Dearborn came in and saw me and provided me with this great article from the Bristol Herald dated January 4th, 1906. God bless Reg Dearborn. And on that day, 50 voters unanimously agreed to turn over the fire district property to the village. And the headline read, "Fire District Votes to Unite with the Village." And so it was really interesting, and that he had sent me that. So yes, Bristol was once a fire district, but then in the 1900s it changed. So your policy to appoint the fire chief is still correct. It still stands, as does your appointment of Brett Rose to be your appointed fire chief and Eric Forand to be your appointed first assistant chief. I have since asked Brett to reference the correct policy or correct statute in the job description. So I don't know if you have any specific questions about that, but that in a nutshell is the answer. And so again, I apologize, I should have done Title 24 instead of Title 20.
I'm really hoping we're gonna be able to put this to bed soon.
That is it, you're done. As far as I'm concerned, it's to bed.
Well, that
It's all
piece of it
over.
anyway.
This piece of it is
The horse
done.
hasn't moved in months.
Well, it's done now.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Review and approval of the Crystal Co-Housing request for a curb cut.
So Eric Forand and Peter Bouvier had gone over this. You can see what they're looking for, driveways. And he provided a nice little map, and Peter's conditions of approval are to follow all the MUTCD standards while working in the town right away. As fences are worked on or replaced, this is specifically around the Pev Peak, they would like them pushed back at least 2 feet away from the sidewalk because we have a 5-foot sidewalk plow. The snow kind of rolls back down in. And they have to replace any sidewalk that's damaged during construction.
I guess I just ask is, I see it says 12-foot curb cut,
12-foot wide driveway, yeah.
12-foot driveway.
Yeah.
No curbs will be affected, it says.
For a driveway?
Well, I think it's more than, is that the one between what we referred to
Yeah, can you guys show me?
Tanassi's and Roscoe's
That
old
this
place?
one?
Yeah.
Is that one?
And this one
one
just
right
goes
there.
to this parking lot,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't
it's not
go
a
through.
It's not a through way.
No.
Okay, so it's just to that parking lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Here,
Yep, and it says no curbs to be affected. Yeah, so it's not a through, it
But
just
that's
goes
a building, That is going to be a building there?
Driveway for 8 and 12 North Street.
This back here is gonna be a building?
Yeah, that. I'm thinking about,
And here's what he's highlighted, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be parking, yeah, it doesn't go all the way through.
where do you get to that building? From here? Or-
I think it's back here, is that when they come in here, Joel, they're gonna come in this way, and it goes
I'm just
right,
thinking of fire protection,
Just park here.
right.
that's all.
Well, there's a hydrant off,
No, just getting, if you.
Getting there.
How do you get, where do you get to that building in the back?
right here. I'm sorry, I gotta get my bearings now, a little sideways, yeah, you're gonna, do you mind if I write on this?
Yep.
You're gonna come in this way, through this street, and they're gonna park here, so that's, and that's it, because I think this might be septic or something, so this is just going into a parking lot. But you're gonna come in here for fire protection for this house, so you can just go in right straight in. I mean, I don't know how wide your trucks are, but I imagine you could put a 12-foot wide, your tanker in here. Yeah, so that's why, there's not gonna be dual
I was
traffic.
thinking of this one here, how to
Yeah,
protect that.
yeah, it's just, we're
Bring
gonna
a
be
fire
right
truck.
here,
You gonna bring it in there, or you gonna?
or right, I think you're gonna have two options.
Because this is all septic.
And since, I mean, it worked out because obviously Eric and Peter are both firefighters, I'm sure they taken that into consideration when they were.
Is this also a 12-foot cut?
I don't know, it's not what they're, I don't
This
know.
is,
The one in the back?
This one here?
this is where the
That's north.
Bristol market is here. This is Peak stops.
Okay.
The last
so-
one is Peaks.
Yeah, I don't, so I see it looks, I
There's a
don't
middle
know
one in there, a new one.
what number is that. Let me look at the map, see. They could have made it a little bit bigger, couldn't they, the print? I'm trying to read it.
If this is to scale, that is not 12
This one right
feet.
here?
Which
Yeah.
the other is
Well,
right
I
here.
think you should-
This is
He's
the
asking
Bristol
right
market.
here.
Right, this
Right,
is
but that's this
almost
one, right?
home.
Well,
This
the
is
park
lot
Peak.
here.
I think,
It's
That's
gotta
Peaks
be-
house, yeah. And this is a new one.
yeah.
Because that's what it looks like.
The one in the
This says
center is a new
residence.
one.
Yeah, it looks like this comes in
Yeah,
back on this side here.
so maybe that's why he's saying 8 and 12, maybe two lanes there.
Okay, yeah.
Because it does say driveways for 8 and 12 North Street, so I do think that, yeah, it might be.
So they're asking for both of these?
8 and
And
12
12.
North Street, yeah.
Well, they're both in. They're both in.
Yeah, they're both in,
Yeah,
right.
So I just, they're not gonna be moved, you take it.
No,
maybe this one will be wider.
maybe.
It says will be
Because isn't
combined
there a
into
garage
one
here?
12-foot wide driveway, so it can't
The
be this
barn
one.
right
Okay,
here,
so it must not be
The
there.
garage right here.
No.
Should've made it.
I think that has to come out.
It's not gonna
It's
be
not
this
this
one,
one.
because it says, if you read the front page, Michelle's right. Driveways for 8 and 12 North Street
Right.
will be combined into one
Oh, okay.
12-foot
Okay,
width
good,
driveway.
Good, good, got it.
Okay.
That's these two.
That's
8 and
these two,
12.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then this is a new place.
So I don't know what that is up here, Joel. Maybe
That's the
it-
existing driveway.
So then he already has a curb cut for us, so he doesn't need one for then, because that's the existing driveway.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
ask, if
that's
that's pre-existing, so they don't have to
Pre-existing,
get.
That's Peb's driveway, or the old Pebble Pete, so he doesn't need a
Well,
curb
this is
cut,
the
because he already has one.
Most eliminate this one,
So, I mean, with both of them looking at it, Pete Bouvier and Eric, they both have looked at curb cuts before, and this is their recommendation, so.
Any other questions?
Zoning and road formers looked at it, I guess.
Somebody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Yeah, second?
Any more discussion?
I think it's just ironically, it says drainage and grading working copy at the bottom. And when they were in a year and a half ago, I asked about, I didn't see any drains in there, and I was told it wasn't any. Well, the drainage is gonna be, I don't know.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Could we, I guess
Thank
that's
you.
too late now. I was gonna ask if, could we, the water, we don't want the water running out of that driveway into the street, right?
No, Peter wouldn't allow that, that's always one thing that he looks at.
Is that part of the MUTCD standards?
No, it's mainly traffic control, but that's something that Peter always looks at, is the pitch of the road, and so he must not have felt it needs a curb or anything, or a culvert or anything, because he would have.
Signing of Green Mountain Engineering contract for Mountain View street work.
So this is part of the Bristol co-housing, as the agreement that a previous board had made was that we would hire our engineer to look over the plans that they had written and then oversee the project. This is Green Mountain Engineering's, the total engineering fee will be $11,250. This is their standard contract, and obviously we've always been very happy with their work. So if you're move forward with the project, it would be great if you could authorize myself or Michelle to sign the contract.
Somebody explain to me what the
Is this
Mountain View
sort of thing
Street
ever
project
go
is.
The Mountain View Street is Bristol co-housing.
Oh, okay.
Once the
Coming down
this
that
is-
Shut down the
That's the
mountain.
one they
Okay.
were in a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
guess-
Right, we
Did
had a
we
discussion
find out
about
which
the
side of
water
the-
lines.
No, because Alan didn't get the engineering until Friday at about 6 o'clock. So he'll have a couple weeks to look it over. He's gonna get a hold of me so we can meet there and discuss what side of the street we're gonna go down. He's aware of all the issues. And so I will most likely be seeing him at the July 25th meeting to go through the
So,
plans.
Okay, so,
by
go ahead.
approving this, we're not approving which side of the street it's going to be.
No, we're
That's
just
gonna come back to
hiring,
us?
yeah, we're just hiring him to look at the plans and make his recommendation and to go over Dean Grover's work, which Dean Grover's doing on behalf of Bristol Co-housing.
Does this sort of thing ever go out to bid?
You know, water, because Alan was involved in the project early on, to be honest, we, not always, because Green Mountain Engineering knows our system forward and backwards. It's a huge savings to us because he's worked the board and he knows the system. So it actually, I believe, has saved us quite a bit of money over the years because he's also done so much work, and he's also done all of our capital studies and planning, so he knows where everything is. There's a lot of work that anybody knows Alan does for free. He's already walked the project, been up there on the weekend, and it's what he does. You do have the right to sole source as part of the purchasing
Oh, I
policy.
know, yeah.
Any more discussion on that? Does somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion, we go with Green Mountain Engineering for the Mountain View water line project.
And give
Mountain View.
Teresa or me the authority?
And give you, the town administrator and board chair, the authorization to sign the contract.
I'll just leave it.
Somebody second?
Sorry.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Any opposed?
I don't know, sorry.
Discussion regarding paving the first responders entrance at 79 West Street Station.
What are you looking to pay?
I'm not looking to pave anything. I was asked to put this on the agenda as a discussion item. And I had explained, I know that there were some people, Peter, that were, and that's why I gave you this cost outside the scope and some information, that didn't remember, Peter, that we didn't pave, but one of the reasons we didn't pave was that we didn't know where the police station was going to go, and we had agreed that we didn't want to look like a bunch of buffoons and then dig up the pavement later. Peter Bouvier has, he was very nice, he went over and chlorided it, which he felt would hold it for a while. But some people are just concerned because of the dust getting on the building and.
Well, it's not only that, that was one of the things we cut out, along with the floor.
No, the paving was never.
I know why it was not paved, because we think someday we're going to put a possibly voters.
Yeah, and
possibly
we didn't know, right, at the
put a
time.
police station there at some time, maybe 5 to 6 years. But I think I think we ought to pave it base coat only, not a finish coat like they
Right.
did the road.
It's still a
and
price.
Finish the project.
When are you anticipating Vermont Gas coming through? That's another line that's gonna go down through there. That's another reason it's not paved. I mean, there's 2 lines to go down through there. One's gonna go, if Vermont Gas comes through, we're set up to take natural gas. We've had that discussion. It's sleeved out and under the sidewalk so they can hit it from the parking lot. you know, it wasn't gonna be paved right from the get-go because of that. The plans for the police station are 6, 7 years out. But I don't think it's that long to wait to see where we're at. I don't wanna be a part of putting down pavement and digging it back up to put either a gas line or a force main up through.
Well, if you're gonna put a force main, Peter, you've put plenty of them in. You're not gonna dig up the entire parking lot. You're probably gonna cut a 4-foot trench along the building.
Until you hit a rock.
Yeah.
And
What
then
is
down through there. I mean, that's my own personal thought, so
May I ask a question? Is there another alternative peaker? Right now gravel, and we could obviously keep it chlorided. In your opinion is, and I'm just gonna, like bluestone, is there something that you think
bluestone
would
is
tie
gonna
it
be
together
just
better?
as dusty as.
All right, I didn't know if we had
all
other.
over the wall.
So basically just keeping it chlorided is a good, and that will firm up the road and,
What is the frequency of use? And if we're gonna pave that, if the frequency of use is not great, wouldn't that paving be better applied somewhere else? If we're gonna pave it all?
Well, the frequency of use, I tell you, it's roughly, 125 calls a year.
Right.
And then 2 trainings a month, a meeting.
200 cars, 200 trips a year probably.
Yeah.
Okay, 200 trips a year. How much dust is getting kicked up?
200 trips
That's
a
a
year,
trip a
30
day.
about
30
30
cars,
cars.
35 cars.
Yeah.
Why did we pave the road then?
Huh?
That theory in, then why did we pave the road?
Pave the road?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Because that was part
Because
of
if
the
you use the
contract.
road to go out, you're using the dirt road to come in.
I don't see it. I don't see the necessity on it.
it's something that you could, you know, revisit maybe after the sale of the land. Obviously, right now, you know, we have about $170,000 in total of expenses that are not covered by the bond. And we obviously, you know, some of that's gonna come out of the money for the sale of the land, which, we can't do until we make, a determination about the USDA. So, there would be money after the sale of the land. Maybe it's something that you could revisit.
So I guess
I don't know.
last meeting you reported we had about 100 and some odd under.
Yeah, about 140,000 in
Yeah.
savings, yeah.
And what did we sign papers for? Well, the bond was for 3.19. And
So we bonded for less. Obviously, that was what we did with the savings. We just used less of a bond. So we didn't keep that money. We bonded. We subtracted it from the amount that we bonded for. That was what the papers were that we put in the, you know, out last time. With the
There's not a pile of money there waiting to be spent.
No, I don't mean that at all, but
No.
there's some items that we cut out.
Uh-huh.
Paving wasn't one of them.
And the money, we just didn't borrow all the money.
Right.
The bond is worded as up to 3.19 million, and so any savings, we just didn't, we just bonded for less, so any savings
So
we had.
let me back up. So how did we pay for the paving of the ramps? Where
That
did
was part of the bond vote, part of the
What
bond.
was in the bid?
It was in the bid.
The money that was
It was part of the
was
whole
road.
The road was paved out of the capital paving budget.
I don't know where
Highway
the money
department?
came
That's where I took the money temporarily, yes, but I think that what I need to do is speak with the treasurer, because I think that what we may have to do, because we're looking at, you know, a chunk of money here, we may have to, depending on the town's cash flow, borrow a little bit of money, like a tax anticipation note or something, until we sell the land, because we're borrowing from capital funds right now, we borrow from ourselves, but now that we've started the reappraisal and this and that, I need to sit down with the treasurer and find out what we're going to be, you know, we may need to bond, you know, to pay, you know, for some of this stuff, because right now, we took it all out of capital building, except for paving, I coded to capital paving, which, and we were gonna replace those monies with the sale of the land. And I had tried, as it did Kevin Harper, we tried to do the closing simultaneously, but then with the ripple of the USDA, we couldn't do that. Because what we were gonna do is pay that money out and get it back in, so now,
So or I guess we don't have a bond or a motion yet. Can I ask these questions on this? These are stuff that, if we hadn't built a fire station, there's some of this on this list we wouldn't have done, correct?
Well, of course, yeah, all of it. I mean,
Tom
traffic
Martin,
sound, traffic
Masterson
warning. Yeah, we
was the
wouldn't have
water
done any of
line
this.
too.
Right.
So this wasn't paid last Tuesday.
No, but you knew that.
I guess my question is, I guess why?
Because you'd always talked about the fact from the beginning that there would be costs that the town would absorb, that we would carry, and then reimburse ourselves from the sale of the land. That's been talked about since the beginning of the project. We always knew we weren't going to, that the road wasn't part of it. Obviously, by having it surveyed, we knew we hired Tom Barden because we, you know, it's public money and public trust. Lawyers
I
fees,
guess
all that.
I would have thought anything that was contributed, if you didn't build a fire station, we wouldn't have needed Tom Barton, we wouldn't have needed the water line to that building. So we built that, that should come out of that bond, not out of it.
Then that's a decision you guys should have made a long time ago, but that was not the decision that you made as a board. You knew this was clear all along, that these costs would.
I thought we were boring 3.19.
I can understand, you're right, that was the plan all along, was to borrow 3.19, but when we came in $143,000 under budget, and I
Well, I
presented
don't,
those
see, there's where I
numbers.
disagree. I don't believe we did come in on 143 under budget. Because if we didn't build a fire station, we wouldn't have had Tom Barton. That should have come out of that 143.
The Tom Barton in this is not,
No, this wasn't even covered under
this is for the road. This isn't his contract for the,
That's the
This is Tom's
No.
contract
Contract
for
for
all of
all
the
of it.
fire station. for
Yeah.
public
He's the clerk of
works.
the works, that should have come out of the bond.
It came out of capital building. So the reason, when I say we came in under budget, we came in under budget for the costs that we'd always anticipated that we put the bond vote out for. These costs were always known that would not be.
I agree they were always known. I agree 100%.
and we decided early on that we would absorb those costs.
Right.
They weren't associated with the building because they're not billed through the building.
I can go to the National Bank, what we signed the other day, I signed basically a bond anticipation note. However, the resolutions are out, it may be too late for me to go back now and ask him to put it up to the full 3.19. Because if you look at the bottom of this, Joel, these are about 170,000 total expenses not covered. You're still gonna sell the land to Stony Hill.
I know,
And then
but-
you're still gonna make, you'll still have $130,000 to pay down some other form of debt of your choosing. Whether it's to put it back on fire station bond or you could pave the road with it, you could,
I guess,
This number's gonna be about 28,000 if we borrow the full amount and subtract that amount from it.
I mean, there's obvious some things here that shouldn't have gone to the fire station bond of 3.19. Like 380 feet of sidewalk and build the remaining road. Didn't need it, didn't be part of the bond. But the Green Mountain Power, if we hadn't built a building, we wouldn't need that Green Mountain Power pool. That should have been put in the bond, I believe. Masterson's work for the water line to that sprinkler system had to go into the bond. Tom Barton, yes. The road surveys, no, that shouldn't have come into the bond because that was survey work outside of that project. I just feel some of that stuff, the traffic warning sign, we hadn't built a fire station, you wouldn't have needed a $5,700 traffic sign. So I think we robbed Peter to pay Paul, and we brought our capital building and capital roads way down, and the voters approved 3.19. And I think there's some expenses that still should go there.
I don't know what to tell you, I didn't make those decisions. I mean, the documents that we signed, that we went over these numbers last week, and as far as, what we were, borrowing. But if the majority of the board wants me to do that, I could certainly call Chris LaPierre and see about borrowing the full amount. I'm not, because like I said, what I just signed was a bond anticipation note, and we'll have a separate closing for that in August. That's if the majority of the board wants me to borrow the full 3.19 and reimburse some of these costs, then someone just needs to make that motion.
I guess I'd like to know
And
before
see if we
even,
can.
I'm not, I'm just bringing up the point was, maybe what did it do to our capital road and our capital
Yeah, your capital building.
building?
Right.
Did it just shrink it down to nothing? Because there's been rumor and talk that we're gonna take $100,000 of our capital road and help pay for
Right,
our
and
stormwater down West Street.
We have $100,000 for to put towards the stormwater, yes, out of capital roads, we do.
Yeah.
But, like I said, you know, we're in a situation where you have money coming as soon as we do the closing with Stony Hill. What may be more palatable versus borrowing up to the 3.19, depending on what you all as a board decide. I will speak with the treasurer and see what we have for my now, because don't forget, we've already foot the bill for the closure, and now that it's after July, I can write to them for money. We may have to do a small note until we sell the land to Stony Hill. And then in which case, instead of paying interest, a lot of interest on that over 30 years, you would just pay short-term interest.
And that's what I was just gonna say,
I like that.
$170,000 over 30 years is not, if we can absorb it,
Right.
it's not gonna affect the tax rate. And anything we can save is gonna help us.
Peter, we talked about, and Michelle, start the memory bank here. When we talked about this a year and a half ago or a year ago before Pete and Ted come on, was we were going to take a good chunk of that 350,000, and someone mentioned maybe $250,000 right onto the bond payment immediately.
Except I thought we had talked about that, but we couldn't pay down the bond.
I guess what is the difference
We can't pay down
between
the bond.
Oh, we
We
paying
can't, no,
that,
it's not a bond, it's not.
Okay.
what's the difference in paying that money against this debt when it comes in, or paying it against the bond? If we never borrow it, we never incur that interest
That's correct.
on that 30-year loan.
There's still some things in here, I believe, on this list that have contributed to that fire station.
I'm not
They all
disagreeing with you, Joel. All I'm saying is, why do you want to add that if we can absorb that $170,000, why do you want to put it on the end of a 30-year note?
Right. And pay all that
Yeah.
interest.
And you'll still,
Agreed. But okay, then if we paid for that paving out of the paving budget, do we have any money left this year for paving?
yes, and the paving budget I paid was $12,975, and I actually took it out of paving, it was my own fault, I should have taken out of capital building with everything else. I just saw paving and wrote 042 or whatever. And trust me, I told the road foreman that I was gonna fix that. But, so yes, Joel, you know, and let's face it, I mean, did we think a traffic warning sign was gonna be $5,700?
No, but I don't want to tell the public we came in $140,000 under budget. I really don't think we did.
I think we did.
Then that's just your way of.
Well, I see
what you're
Joel's
saying, Joel.
point, right. Joel's point is that if you put in the items, you know, some of these items we wouldn't have incurred if we didn't put the fire station.
Right.
So if you were to add them into that cost, then we wouldn't have come under budget.
Right.
But because they aren't in there, then it shows that we came under budget.
But if you
Because
would
they
like,
are in there, we're not gonna pay
we would
interest.
also,
so.
if
Oh,
we-
right,
They didn't-
right. I'm just saying, trying to clarify his point.
I understand his point. The other side of it is, had we put them in there to start, we could have been another 140 over.
Right,
Yep,
correct.
Had we not saved money in
On other
certain
things.
areas and on
Right.
on other things. So,
Correct.
I mean, it's,
and some of this,
we're putting our honest money in there to save the interest costs.
and some of this too is an estimate. When I'm saying build the remaining of this road, pave the remaining, of you know, obviously I'm estimating these numbers. Paying the state of Vermont the $26,000, we don't have to do that until we sell the land, but we always knew we would have to pay them a portion per acre, you know, so there's some of that that's in here that may not necessarily be part of, you know, the fire station. And I also estimated, Peter and I, on 380 feet of sidewalk. So there's some things in here we did, you know, my numbers are estimates. So that number could be a little bit lower than 170 or higher if I estimate.
yeah, I was gonna say, it could go either way.
Yeah, or if I estimate wrong. Yeah, I just tried to use what we'd already paved and figure some tonnage, but.
Well, I'd
So
like to
I-
at least, we've been discussing this, and I know we got off, but I had to get this straight
No,
before
that's
I
fine.
discuss the paving. I'd like at least before I make a motion to pave that, at least an estimate. And it may, you know, we can get one for a base coat.
Well, yeah, 2.5 inches of base coat, we paid $90 a ton last time, but but Peaker's right, what is it you're talking about paving? Are you just talking about paving your entrance to that first little bit of parking, or are you talking about paving that entire parking lot? I mean, can get you,
I was thinking the back one for sure.
all right,
Not
because,
where
But you were thinking where they park in the front. You're talking about
On the
drive, the
side.
access and the
That's
parking in the
well,
front.
I mean,
West
and
side.
maybe Peaker can help in that sense. Oh, I mean, look, we know that
I don't know
road,
how many square feet that is.
the road was, $12,975. So you've got to, my guesstimate is, and that was the price we got from him because he was already there. When I spoke to Peter Bouvier about it, he said we were probably looking at $15,000, 15 to 20 to do the road, parking, and maybe a little bit more. As I asked him that already. So there's an estimate for you right there. If it costs 12 to do the road, it's probably gonna, I could see how it'd be if that's the same footage, still using the 2.5 inch base coat.
Can we get it, at least get an estimate for next meeting, before next meeting?
Get a firm price from
Yeah,
Pike or
DNF.
DNF.
So how far, Joe?
Yeah, but
Just where it starts to go around that,
The corner.
the corner
back
out
corner.
back. Stop right there.
To the
To that, where the last car.
CD corner of the building.
Yes.
to the what?
CD corner.
That's.
The southwest corner.
Oh,
The
the
southwest corner.
The southwest corner.
Of the parking. Where the last car can park on the west side.
And you're okay with cutting that up in 3 years' time if natural gas comes through?
They can probably push that.
They aren't pushing that, Bill, not in that soil.
Yep.
Well, I'll get a price and put it on next. You okay with that, Peter? Oh, Smith.
You could ask them to come and put it down.
They run right over it. They don't have much going on.
No, there's not much going on. You could put a 1 inch tube.
Any more discussion on that? Can we move on?
We can move on.
Okay. Discussion regarding naming new road off West Street.
So it's the same area. I had spoken to Craig Scribner. He's the one who handles 911 addresses for us. I spoke to Kevin Harper. You got it? And well, at some point the select board's going to have to name that road. So I think it's something to give some thought to. I know that a couple of the names that Kevin Harper was kicking around, he wants it to be maybe, he would have been pushing for Stony Hill because he's going to name the business park will be named Stony Hill. I'm like, you can't do that. We already have a Stony Hill. And then he said, well, you can, when we take some of those trees out, you get a beautiful view, about Bristol Cliffs. And I said, I live on Bristol Cliffs Drive. You can't name it that either.
What's the first building there? What's the first building there right now?
The fire station.
How about Firehouse Lane?
Well, you want to think about, that's not a bad name, but you also want to think about the fact that eventually
Take a
there's,
business, and big tractor trailers, take it down West Street and look for the big new firehouse.
yeah.
That's where you want to go, Firehouse Lane.
Yeah, he was looking for something maybe Cliffview Drive, Longview Drive, Rivers, something a little bit that kind of lets you know if you're going to be down there and that's a business. Eventually when some of those trees are out there taken down, you will have a beautiful view there, and eventually there will be a business park there. So you're going to be looking, there'll be houses and business, and so anyways, it's just something to think about in the meantime. And then that was one of them was on my list was Firehouse Lane. You've been mentioning that since the beginning. And but just remember someday that won't just be Firehouse Lane. Possibly in a few years that could be the fire department or the police department, would be there. And so I don't know, it's just something to think about as far as commerce and
What if we put it out to the public?
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you put something out there, just
Yeah.
get some ideas.
Get some
it's
feedback.
funny, Eric Foran had suggested that today as well. What if we get some ideas, put it out as he said as a contest. But I said, and let the select board choose the winning name.
Right.
I didn't know if you wanted to do that or, but
I
certainly.
wouldn't call it a contest, but I would certainly, we've got some real creative people around here that could come up with some things.
Some ideas.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we'll put something on a front porch
Yeah,
forum and saying,
just
hey,
say-
send your ideas to Pam
To
and,
Therese, yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, well,
We didn't need trails there.
it's actually, Eric Foran had said that. You should do a contest out of it. But, so ask for ideas. All right, I think that's, fine. And I know that generally in the past that the listers have done, and they've signed on, it was work with the owners of the land, which would obviously be us and, Kevin Harper from their ideas. But Firehouse Lane is on my list. Joel.
I do think unfortunately, anything with Stony Hill in it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, he tried to come up with some real, I'm like, it's just not gonna work. So, but I did write that down, or I had it down anyways, Joel, so I was telling his ideas. So I think that's a good idea. You guys can think of ideas too.
Okay.
We're public.
That's right. You get to
We
see
are
it.
creative sometimes.
There you go.
Approval of the minutes of June 27th. I just had one change. Jen, which is number 4, put a D on the end of board.
Yes.
I figured
Boards.
that.
Okay.
They're not bores.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion
So moved.
With the correction.
with the correction? No. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Town clerk and treasurer's report, including any liquor licenses.
Did you see that stuff I left you? It was in a folder, okay.
Peter, you can sign it.
I have
Do we have to sign
two
this
liquor
in the
licenses.
Yeah, I do have stuff signed out. You do.
One for Lincoln Peak Vineyard to take part in the market at Tandem, which is store, the old corner store. I guess they're gonna have a 10 by 10 tent outside of their, because they're gonna close off that.
Oh, the
Remember they
alleyway
talked
between
about
the
doing
National
that?
Bank
Yeah, they're
and,
gonna close off the alleyway between the National Bank and the corner store, and they're gonna do this little,
They are?
They must have gotten permission from Pomerlo, because I
kind of
told
like,
them.
I guess it's like a market is what they're calling it, so
that.
that people can come and try some different things, and they're hosting.
Is that like they're closing it off for one day?
It looks like on July 21st, Thursday, July 21st from 4:30 to 9:30, so it looks like it's just an evening.
For what, for what?
4:30 to 9:30.
4:30 to 9:30 on July 21st.
That's a Thursday, right?
Yes, it is. So I guess you
She
guys
needs a motion.
have to
That
approve
closes.
that.
Has somebody
Four.
approved?
5.
Huh?
5.
On Thursday?
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move.
Somebody second? Does somebody want to second that
Sure.
motion? Okay, any discussion about that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
And then I have another one for the Appalachian Gap Distillery. They're hosting something at Lulu's Ice Cream Shop at 11 Main Street. Looks like it'll be inside Lulu's on July 25th from 5 to 10.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just on the last one, did the chief run his eyes by that one? Outside consumption?
It's private property. 'Cause
That's on Pomerlo's.
When she came in,
She came in
and we
talked
told
about-
her she had to get permission from Pomerlo because that was it was private property. So we told her we couldn't give her permission to do that. She needed to get that permission. Jen could verify with her that she got the permission if you'd like, Joel.
It's still outside. I'm just wondering, still outside. Chief ought to weigh in on that or not?
I think it's gone for 3 weeks, but we can ask someone else if you want.
I mean, as long as they're not on our parking lot,
Any
yeah.
other outdoor consumption.
But are they,
DLC will be aware, so generally they send an inspector.
I mean, are they coming off out the front door of the tent and back and forth? Or out
I
the
think
front?
they're blocking off, from my understanding, they were blocking off the entire alleyway, so no through traffic would be going through at all.
Well, how are they getting the alcohol from the store, inside to outside?
This is a separate, this is not,
Oh,
this
okay.
is Lincoln Peak who's going to
Okay.
come provide alcohol at
It'll
this
be outside,
event.
so
So
they'll have
it's
a
something
van or
separate
whatever.
All right.
from that store. Sorry.
Okay, so Appalachian Gap, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Accounts payable warrant is going around. Select board concerns. Joel, I'll start with you.
I noticed in the bills, is it Casella Waste bill for 14,400.
Yeah, it's the final invoice for the landfill. Yeah, they're done. The engineer has to approve it before we pay it, and they have signed off on it, and so it's our final invoice.
So that was still stayed within the margin of what they bid on?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely. Yeah.
didn't bid on, told us what they could do it for?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and I do have a few questions on the fire station. I brought it through our walkthrough. You talked about maybe getting someone to do the lawn edging where the stone is to the edge.
Yeah, we did get a price, or all we did was might have been Peter and I, we just kind of cornered Paul Davis one day and said, how much would it cost us to mow a lawn when we were doing a budget, for building, but I haven't hired him yet to go over and do that. I wasn't sure, to be honest, if he could be on the grass because it was kind of
No, I was
spongy.
thinking, we talked about that stone coming out on the left
Yeah, and
side.
doing the edging,
Doing
installing it. So we could do it now? I wasn't sure, to be honest, because I wasn't
I
sure
would assume you could before the lawn gets too, I
if it was stable to do it yet. I wasn't sure,
think
but,
it'd be the best time. And then
okay.
there
So I'll
was a spot
call,
on, and there was a spot on the back where right now there's two old bark benches where the ramp comes out the back doors and the sidewalk's low and there's that 1 foot of stone that's like that.
right, and they're supposed to be, did they plant the daylilies?
No.
Okay, so then.
Well, I guess I was wondering, is that the thing we want there, daylilies, and still to trip over, or do we just want a rail there?
Well, hang on, so let me just write Paul, thank you, I'm losing, call Paul Davis about edging, sorry, Paul, I just wanted to, well, it's something that we've talked about, back and forth, was what the landscape architect had talked about was just putting something there to basically call people's attention to it. We thought by having the daylilies there, they could handle the water and the runoff, to just kind of just remind people that there's something there. However, I'm not a firefighter, so I'm aware that you had something like this at your old fire station.
Well, it's going to be quite a tripping hazard.
It is quite a...
Daylilies aren't going to work in the middle of winter time. And so
Right.
go off there, and I'm not worried about someone going off that edge and twisting an ankle and getting a workman's comp issue.
Great.
I think just a rail there that's probably 6 feet long, kind of like the one that's up on the mezzanine, goes like that around the top.
That we had, Knox
Yeah.
Metal made that. It certainly didn't give that away.
No.
I mean, I'm sure we could work with maybe Randy Sargent,
Right.
Craig Brown, or somebody to give us an estimate. Is that something that the fire dues? What does Peter and Peaker think?
They know where it is,
That corner?
that back corner, that stone.
Is that
Where the
something?
benches are currently sitting.
Yeah, there
You
was
think-
supposed to be a shrub going there, something. that
There
is-
was, yeah. Now they're talking about daylilies, kind of to put something there to draw people's attention to it, so that they didn't step
Yeah,
down
I
in.
don't- The whole idea was it had to be something that was gonna be there year round.
Right.
Like a shrub or a daylily is not gonna work.
Well, we can certainly put a shrub in there, but what Joel's proposing is getting a price for like a metal railing
Yeah,
from,
steel pipe railing.
Knops or Craig Brown or Randy Sargent. But I'm not sure the way, with plowing, is that gonna be an issue? If there's if there's a rail there?
We're gonna find out.
Well, that's what it's
Well,
not
no,
gonna
you
be-
would put the railing down next to the cement, next to the
Right in
apron.
that-
You're not talking
that
about putting
stone.
it
Right in
in
that
the
stone.
stone.
Driving it right into that stone
Yeah, I mean, if you could if all you did was, if you could push a pipe in there, because nothing's gonna go in there easy, I can tell you that.
and,
It's either gonna have to be mounted to the side of that, apron or the top of the sidewalk. And I would sooner think the side of the apron because,
That's where it's gonna be
Yeah.
fall off.
So is that something you want me to pursue getting a quote on? Work with the fire chief?
I would, work with him.
I don't know if we need a rail or just a pole, we talked with Leo about putting a ballard there at the corner just so that you knew it was there, but at that point, we already had everything poured, so we couldn't dig.
I mean, we're talking a stretch, maybe 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet, not very long.
I know the bases that Pete uses for the square signposts, you probably don't want something that looks like that, but he could drive one of those and stick
I think Randy could drive, if we went with Randy or Craig, drive a steel pipe in and slide another one in, weld it. you know, solid pipe within a pipe.
What about a flower box?
We're
There kind
talking
of is
space,
one now
we're
there.
talking a space about this wide.
Yeah.
And what is
I've
it,
seen
how
flower
high is
boxes that wide.
it? No, but how
Well,
high
what we had originally talked about was a pressure treated edge on the, and then a pressure treated plank down the edge of the sidewalk and filling it. So you have, but you still end up with a step there. That's why we went to the shrub, you know, a little shrub that would stick up, that you wouldn't run into. I mean, it's gonna be a tripping hazard if we don't put something there so that you know it's there. It's gonna be a tripping hazard.
So should we try a shrub until spring and see if you're happy with it once you've been there for a few months and then decide on the railing? Or, because the daylilies, they're obviously not in, so it's not a problem having them torn out, they haven't planted them. So I can reach out to Green Haven and ask them to plant, what was Leo kept calling it, some prickly bush trees. So I'm like, okay. That's what he kept saying, plant a prickly bush
It's
there.
gotta be something that doesn't get too tall.
Too big.
and
It
too
can't get
big.
too big and it's gotta be hardy and it can't, you know, it's gotta take a beating as far as salt, but I don't know
Well, you're
how
asking
you.
for a miracle.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what we had discussed at meetings before.
Well, you know, the other side of that is probably with the cost of shrubs, it might not be a bad idea to get a price on a rail.
Mhm.
Because it may be just as reasonable just to put a rail in there.
I only mentioned a flower box because if you hit it with a plow, it's not gonna be as devastating to
It's not
repair
gonna
and replace as the pipes in the
But
ground.
what's gonna be plowed in there? It's just, it's the sidewalk, right?
Sidewalk's probably gonna be, and they're probably gonna go up with the loader and just pull the snow back within the doors.
Yeah, it's just the edge of the ramp.
Mhm.
It's pretty, you know, if you go around back to the back door by
Right.
the generator, it's pretty evident. You want to swing by and take a look at it.
No, I was back there, so I know where it is, but you've got the sidewalk comes out,
Yeah.
so you're gonna
If
plow
you
the,
follow
you're gonna
it,
plow
if
the aprons, but,
And the
Sidewalk.
sidewalks.
but with the
are
sidewalk
You gotta shovel
shoveled or
sidewalk.
sidewalk shoveled?
Shoveled.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I was asking. What would you really run into with this plow? You wouldn't.
Just the cleaning off the,
Mhm.
Anything's possible.
Well, I know that.
well, I can give,
I've run into plenty of stuff with the plow. I won't admit to any of it.
I can work on, getting an estimate.
Okay.
Okay.
2x4 or something. right?
And,
Okay.
and how is we've been about a week, a good solid week now of the new water system operators, how's
Yeah,
things going?
great. I've actually received, I was on vacation last week, but before in this week, it was very detailed, day by day. This is what I've been doing. Met with Rick today and he was great, and I'm going to take them tomorrow to show them where the sewer, to do the sewer readings. I know where all the meters are. And been great. They have, John Champlin was coming down this afternoon, to take care of a couple things, and been great and very detailed in their daily minutes, and
Good.
very good.
I did, if there's any question, I did go down on Simon's last day and document everything that was in the pump house.
Yeah,
So we have that.
Yeah.
I took photographs of everything, so that we
Nice.
have it.
yeah. You know, we talked about changing locks and things, and I certainly explained to as was, look, this is for your own protection. Last thing you want is someone to think you have a key. That's certainly not. So we did that. No, the transition was very smooth, and no, so far so good.
You mentioned key now, that's my last thing on. Can I now change the locks on the old fire station?
I think that the fire chief in an email might have asked you to wait until, I think you said maybe you do it July 9th or something, till Saturday.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I maybe this following Saturday. I would just reach out to him to make sure you have everything out.
If he says change it now, I can change it.
Yeah, absolutely,
We're all
sir.
set. And we're on for 1 o'clock on Thursday,
The
right?
14th, yeah,
This Thursday,
Mhm.
the 14th, they
Yeah.
went up there.
yeah.
Okay. That's all I
I
got.
haven't heard anything from anybody yet, so maybe it'll just be you and I.
Peter,
Good.
Pete,
Good.
Ted?
Anybody been down Prince Lane lately?
To go to Shaw's? Yeah,
To go to
sure.
Shaw's?
Or out to Mountain Street,
No, I don't.
where the holes are deep enough to put a casket in?
Oh, that's
The
a
private drive.
Don't we have that by, right away by virtue of use?
No,
Not us.
no.
Bristol Beverage does.
Bristol Beverage has purchased an easement right away, but no.
So it's, our maintenance is not our concern.
Right.
No. Nope, and the owner has been adamant in that, and that.
How we slow in traffic down.
And that it's not, used, that we don't ever use it as a detour, so.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing is, and it's hopefully a one-time thing, on July 5th, I was called several times by irate people about the mess after the 4th of July on Main Street. The garbage barrels that the town put out there were humped up and overflowing with stuff on the ground. And I actually went down and met one of the people and pointed out that it was not the 4th of July Committee's responsibility to take care of those barrels. We took care of everything on the park and both sides of West Street. Is there any way that those things can be emptied immediately at the close of the 4th of July? It was disgusting. There was stuff all over it.
We have to get employees to do it because our contract
Right.
next year, depending on the because obviously R&L is closed and they do our trash pickup on Fridays.
How about first thing on the 5th?
You know, I
They
would
were
have
actually here at 5 a.m. on that Wednesday,
Sixth.
picking up
on the
the
6th.
trash.
We would,
On the 6th.
Yeah,
not
I
on
know,
the
but at least they were here rather than
Right.
Friday.
well, what we could do, Ted, is it would either have to be an employee doing it on
Of course.
July 5th, or R&L would have to do a special, stop, obviously. So, but I'm sure that we can work something out.
Yeah, they did a good job on the morning
Oh, of
of
course,
the 6th.
yeah.
But
They always do.
the whole day of the 5th, it was just rude.
I'm sorry.
But
that
that's,
happened
I
to
mean,
you.
that said, I was gonna bring that up too, because this is really a learning curve for us, because normally we're so used to the highway crew picking it up right after, and we had our own dump, so they would take it right in, and,
Yeah.
we didn't. So we kind of failed, in thinking about this proactively, so we're gonna have to think about, like,
The other side of it
the
is,
fall,
if
the
the town picks
Oktoberfest.
it up, they don't have
They
to
have their own
dispose of
dumpster.
it. We have 2 dumpsters on the other side of the park that stuff could be put in.
Yeah.
So
And they're not-
disposing of it is not an issue.
Okay.
Picking it up, I'm not picking it up.
So we would need an employee to pick it up the
Right.
following day or the end of that day, and your dumpsters are there. So,
Right.
okay, well, we can make arrangements for that next year. Certainly.
But
And
it's
I'm
just not
sorry
gonna
that
be,
people
I was
were
gonna say,
having a
it's
hard
just
time.
not them though. I mean, we're gonna have to think about anything that's on the park. I mean, what happens on Wednesday nights when they have the band concerts and they have
Well, I put
um,
signs out,
the
you know,
stuff that
we,
goes on?
yeah.
I personally police the park on the 4th,
Well, I know, you,
both sides of West
right,
Street, and anything that appeared after 4:30 in the afternoon was thrown there.
right.
After
No, I mean, I'm gonna say the park on the 4th of July did well. I'm
Just
talking
think
about
mention
like,
that when they have something
they have a
different.
concert, they
Well,
have
I'm
the
not
barbecues on the
worried.
park and that. Yeah.
When they do that,
I got one
Darla,
thing I'm focusing on.
Darla and Val have instructed anyone that does any
Take the
food on
trash.
Wednesday, they have to take the trash and they have to offer a receptacle for anything that they sell because the park is clearly marked pack in, pack out. I actually put signs again on the dog disposal thing saying, for your convenience, there are receptacles for trash located here, here, and here. This is not one of them. And, but I've obviously emptied it myself when it's been overflowed with trash because people are too lazy to walk across the street. But we'll certainly make sure we take care of that for the 5th next year. And again, Ted, I'm sorry that people were targeting you in that
It
way.
just reflects poorly on the whole thing.
Yeah, and it was just, as Michelle
And I was
said,
sick of the phone call.
well, it totally never, it didn't, like Michelle said, it just wasn't our.
Wasn't on our radar,
Right.
didn't think about it, so. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to plan in the future for the bigger events that happen.
I know on
to do
the,
that.
I think that, last year, last year, because we had it already, Darla had a dumpster, or had somebody, or maybe the road, somebody did something for her for trash last year during Harvest Festival,
Harvest Festival.
because we were already closed at the landfill at that point, so.
I think the only thing I had to do with Bristol Fire. I thought we were, and maybe I'm wrong, I thought the Bristol Fire Department name was supposed to be backlit.
It is, it's not here yet. It's
Okay.
on.
I was gonna say, because with the lights out front, when they're on, you can't really see.
No, it's not here yet. I actually saw that, fire chief had sent a list, to Leo of a couple things, and that was one of them I saw was on, because I had noticed that when I drove by, I'm like, I didn't see that light, so.
Right,
I'm not in the loop, but is the traffic light working right yet?
Yes.
Yes,
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I was gonna say, I noticed it the other
They
day.
switched the button.
It's not the right button, it's a
Right.
temporary button. Which,
Use
What do
button.
you
yeah,
mean?
which we
It's
should
like
have.
this weird round
The new
ball.
one hasn't showed up yet.
Ugh. So what they do, send us a
They put one
alternative?
in to make it work.
It doesn't.
Maybe
yeah,
the
we-
road foreman got sick of a few people complaining to him.
Okay, that's all I have. Therese?
I spoke to Pete Bouvier last week, and he did install the crosswalk near Cecil's over to
Okay.
Ross Brown's. It might know that Cecil was a little bit upset in the beginning that it was a great idea, but he thought maybe somebody, since they talked to Ross, might want to reached out to talk to him. So I noticed that Peter, because he obviously has some very nice flowers along the way there, Peter Bouvier didn't want someone trampling his flowers, so I think he pushed it a little bit further to the intersection. So anyways, we'd work that out. The other thing, since the continuation of the fire station, we talked about the generator, and that it's, we were talking about $7,000 to have a generator, bless you, removed to be sent back to the factory. And today I received a call from Terry White of Naylor and Breen, and he asked if he'd looked into with their insurance company if they could get insurance on just the generator, and they could. However, Naylor and Breen's insurance company, said that we'd have to get it. So what Naylor and Breen's thought is we got a price, and it would be $115 a year, $1,000 deductible, and Naylor and Breen is offering to pay our insurance premium for 2 years, and then to hire Brookfield generator to come here and retrofit the generator instead of taking that thing out and sending it back to the factory. They had tried working directly with the factory and asking the manufacturer to send someone here, but even if they sent someone here, they said it would void our warranty. So obviously by having Brookfield generator fix it, it's going to void our warranty, but Naylor and Breen is willing to pay our premium, and I would assume our deductible if we had an incident for the next 2 years in lieu of that manufacturer's warranty, and it would save several $1,000s.
So you're saying the warranty on it is only a 2-year warranty?
Yes.
Is there some way to submit that for the $1,000?
We put it in writing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you said you assumed that.
Yeah, no, well, we would definitely put it in writing. And they also,
So I mean, I don't know what the warranty is on it, what it covers, what it doesn't cover, but, you certainly want to be specific with that, with whatever.
to make sure the insurance company would
Who's
cover.
gonna cover it.
Mhm. And that is to have it retrofitted so that it will do
Paper.
vapor. I was
Yeah.
like, not liquid, vapor. Then or natural gas. I don't know how you all
The
feel
switch
about that.
from, yeah, the switch, I don't have a problem with it. If there's gonna be a failure, it's gonna be a catastrophic failure early on anyway.
Doesn't sound very good. No. Those are bad words.
Well, it's the
Yeah.
nature of it. Either, you buy a new car and it runs great, you never have any problems, or you buy one and shortly after you get it, you know it's gonna be a headache the whole time you got it. Like the back window's gonna blow out, and you're gonna have to put something fancy in.
Yeah, I know how it goes. Okay.
So Brookfield is a very reputable company.
Yep. they
Can
some-
retrofit that
Yes.
for how many thousands of dollars?
For a couple thousand, so it's cheaper than the original
Yeah.
$7,000.
Nail and Breen gonna cover that, or someone in that,
It appears
not us?
Not us at this point. It appears that way. One thing that I did.
What do you mean, not us at this point?
Well, because here's the rub. We have said, I have made the argument that we have talked about natural gas since day one. Well, they went back through all of our meeting minutes, and it's not been in our minutes. So is it possible that we discussed it at a select board meeting? Is it possible that we discussed it before Naylor and Breen entered the picture when we were originally, I mean, how many hundreds of hours of conversations have we had about this building in the last year and a half? So they went through and reviewed all the minutes and said it's not there. But my feeling is if we accept this, they pay the insurance and they get, that they won't put up a fuss and we won't have to pay any portion of it. I feel like between Naylor and Breen and, you know, a couple other parties, the electrical person who spec'd it, they'll absorb the cost. But I won't know that until I have another conversation with them tomorrow. But I feel like if we accept this, or you do, that they'll pay for the whole thing. Thoughts?
But the heating system was put in to accept natural gas.
There was never any, yeah, in our defense, there was never anything in the plans for liquid propane.
There wasn't.
So therefore, somebody
You can
on
make
their-
that same argument.
Yeah, we can make the same argument. Somebody on their end
That's a good point.
missed that.
And I do think that between that contractor, I think between Naylor and Breen and that electrical contractor, that they'll absorb it. Basically what they were looking at, they were looking at a $7,000 hit. Now they're looking at a $3,000 hit. That's a lot easier for them to divvy up and swallow versus I don't think they'll come for us looking for any money. And as long as we can research this and make sure the coverage, you know, versus what is a warranty versus insurance coverage,
Right.
and find that we're dealing with the right.
We're comparing
similar-
apples to
comparing
apples,
apples to
right.
apples, yes, thank you.
Right.
Will Brookfield guarantee their work?
Well, I'm sure, we'll have to ask them that. I would assume that they do, they're a reputable company, and we brought them in to do work down here, and they're looking for a service contract from us, which would mean they could service the fire station, the water department, and, well, the highway department took the old fire station generator, so they know they're looking for a package deal to come here, so I imagine that they do warranty their work, but I can find that out as well.
I guess I'm not saying warranty, as Peter said, if the motor blows, that came from the company who built it.
No, you just want them to warranty the conversion.
Right.
Yeah. Sure. I don't have to worry
Probably
about it.
whatever the standard,
Yeah, 90 day or,
90, yeah.
okay,
Till the check clears.
Sidewalk guarantee, once they pass the sidewalk, it's.
okay.
Well, it's that Naylor and Breen's handle that, so.
The other thing is, okay, so we talked about that. Once we move out of the old station, and the insurance company has them listed as the station and the garage. After 90 days, once they're vacant, the insurance value is going to drop to cash value minus 20%. So it has the garage valued at that point at $131,000. $30.40, and it has the station valued at $273,996. So I'm not feeling like we should lower those limits. I feel like they're okay that way. I just wanted to see what you all felt. I mean, it's not like we could make them lower, but we're not going to
Can we
them
make them
higher.
higher?
No, because she said that, no, once they're vacant, and I believe you ran into that with your mother's house, a vacant. The other thing is I did reach out to R&L. Because their contract, started with us in August of last year. Spoke to Richard to ask if he'd be interested in continuing. We're certainly happy with his service. And he said, yeah, he said he'd like to continue. He thinks the tonnage has come up at the dump a little bit. He's happy to see that. And he has no plan to increase his price to the town for our pickups or for bag price over at the landfill. So, if it's okay with the select board, we've written that contract, I believe, for a year to see how it would go when we talk about it, and it'd be nice maybe to just send him a letter extending it for another year or two if you...
I agree. So we'll make a motion, we continue with R&L rubbish for year number 2 based on year number 1's contract. If that makes sense.
Pete, second one. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And that's it. You have, oh, wait, no, one more thing. I'm sorry. In your packet, you probably saw that. So congratulations to Eric Forand, Ian Albinson, and Carolyn Ashby. They successfully got our downtown designation renewal. So terrific for them. So that's good. So, no, you do have an executive session, and that's it. Good night, Jim.
Good night.
We need to go into executive session. Somebody want to read, please?
Somebody should this as well.
Oh, yeah, you could mention it right now.
Yeah, this really nice thing that Bob, from Bob Worley.
Officer World.
Officer Worley, yes, that's it. Thank you,
Go ahead and read it, Deb.
Hmm?
Just go ahead and read it.
All right. I heard from Kevin Gibbs and Cub Scout leader Eric Foran about your thoughtful act of kindness on Saturday, June 25th, 2016. How wonderful that you thought to bring s'mores makings to a group of Cub Scouts at Eagle Park. I'm certain that this will be remembered for many years by these young boys. Not all youth have an idyllic perception of police officers due to circumstances of their upbringing. In this one choice, you made police officers heroes. Congratulations, Bob, on a job well done. You are an asset to the Bristol Police Department. Sincerely, Teresa.
It was really nice of him, wasn't it?
It was very
I mean, he
nice.
just,
Thank you,
this is what he did. He
Officer
just,
Worley.
went into, at his own expense, went into Rite
Yeah.
Aid or somewhere and bought all the stuff. And the kids were just tickled pink when he showed up, and it was real
Extremely
sweet.
nice thing.
It was very community police.
Yes. Okay, now can somebody want to read?
Let's make a motion to go into executive session to discuss regarding the annual evaluations of public officers and employees per 1 VSA 313-A-5 to set salary adjustments for the 2016-2017 fiscal year.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?